Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Media Chop Up. I am your boy Sergio Villa, joined by my brother from another mother, Kyle.
What's up, y'all? What's up, Serge?
What's up, man? Thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody for joining in. Today we're gonna talk about one of my favorite games that were adapted into a TV show on HBO. It's called The Last of Us, and I've always felt that playing that game wowed me in many aspects, but more than anything, I was like, man, this is like a movie. And ironically, HBO was like, exactly, I'm gonna turn this into a movie or a series. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to talk about this. There's a huge amount of fans out there. Thank you all to that have subscribed in this country and the next. You know, we welcome you. We welcome the feedback, the talking about it. I love it all. Let's get started with the show. So episodes 1 and 2 aired already, and I know I'm excited. And I've been reading a lot of different things about how people are happy or upset. There's a lot of like comparisons going on. You know, have you liked this so far?
I think it's a great adaptation so far. I think it's been really good. I mean, I think they did a good job of knowing when to stick to the game and
Hmm.
knowing when to kind of like we could veer off and change the story slightly. You see a lot of that in the first episode, which was really good. Really good.
Definitely. I mean, are you one of those fans that are like you're veering from the story? I don't like it.
No, no, I welcome the creativity. I do think they're going to continue to hit on the main points
Yeah.
of the game, which is cool. But I think that you get a different crowd, so you have to adapt the story a little bit. You have to change the story slightly. And I think they've done. I have no complaints about the first two episodes so far. What about you?
I'm excited. I mean, the first 2 episodes were laying the premise,
Yeah,
the foundation of everything. So, you get a little bit of action, but more than anything, they're drawing up the storyline so they can go where they want to go with it. You know, you got to understand that this is a game that was adapted to a series, but it's kind of been done before. You have The Walking Dead, which is about zombies, and there are a lot of similarities, but it also veers off. You
yeah,
know, ultimately, Walking Dead, The Last of Us, it's not about zombies.
hmm,
It's about more than that. You know, it's about how it changes people, how people are forced to become different versions of themselves in a new world. This is zombie apocalypse, you
yeah.
know. But there's a lot of details that go along with that. Before we get into that, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to a group chat I joined on Facebook. They're called The Last of Us Obsession. There's 1,800 members in there. There's a very cool owner in there, and there's a lot of cool people in there that are constantly posting stimulating things, all creditable things, asking very cool questions. I'm happy to be a part of it, so I figured I'd give them a big shout out because they've showed me nothing but love, and hopefully they'll like our podcast, you know. So I
Nice.
welcome them to give us feedback or ask questions or whatever the case may be. We're open. I'm excited because we got, you know, what, 8 episodes of this.
Yeah.
They're only up to 2. I kind of wish I could binge watch them, but
Mm.
they do it on purpose. They want to keep drawing you in every week instead of you just binge watching everything, you know.
Yeah, I think when you have to wait for a week for a show, it kind of adds more to it.
It
It
does.
really does. It
It
adds a
does.
lot more
It
to
does.
it.
And I could say that it also adds a lot of speculation.
Mm,
And I mean, my perspective is one who has played the game. So I'm also a person that you can tell me what's going to happen. I'm not going to be upset. I want to see it happen. Sometimes I
mhm.
like to be surprised, you
Yeah,
know, but some people want to be surprised. So I think from a fresh standpoint, if you are not a fan, I mean, and you've never played the game, that's okay. You can still get pulled into this storyline.
yeah.
Um, I'll be the
But
first
I
to admit what.
but I'm just saying, but I played the game. I played both of them as well. But being someone who has played the game, it makes it 2 times better when you're watching the show. It's just because you went through
Yeah,
this
yeah,
already.
yeah,
You've
yeah.
been through this. You've been running from them clickers and trying to keep quiet and everything. So yeah, man.
Uh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
And there was a moment where, um, in episode 2 and 1, well, in episode 2, where I was like smiling nostalgically because I was like, yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. That's I feel like I'm in the game. I feel like
yeah.
I'm in the game. We'll get to that point. So obviously, I'm gonna share a picture of the game cover versus the actual cover of the series, and you can see how they're staying true to its roots. So you see over here, you have Joel and you have Ellie over here on the left. That's the game one, and then on the right, you have that's the series from HBO. So there's similarities, but they're trying to keep as true to the original script as possible, which we love, which we're
Yeah,
happy about.
yeah, yeah.
Also, that first episode basically basically hit 4.7 million viewers. That's the
Mhm.
second largest debut in the past decade. I think it was it was second on the
House of Dragons,
House of
maybe?
Dragons. Yeah,
House of
House of
Dragons.
Dragons. Yes,
But
House of Dragons.
you know what I can say? Because
Mm.
HBO does this a lot. The shows, the first season, those pilot episodes are rough to get through. Game of Thrones, oh my God. It was tough to get through. That first episode was tough. But
Uh,
this one, I don't know, maybe because we knew the story, we knew how it was going to play out. But this one, they nailed the first episode. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the whole first episode, even
Here's
though
a
I know
question.
what was going to happen.
Here's a question. Here's a question. I mean, it's been a while since I played the game.
Yeah, that's
A
true. That's
while.
true.
So it's coming back to me. So I'm
Yeah,
getting spurts of it.
yeah,
But my question to you is: the first episode was longer, right?
yeah.
Did you feel like, man, this is an old episode, or did you feel, damn, it done already?
I felt like first of all, it went in sections for me because I know how. Well, the beginning is something that we haven't seen before in the game. We see his daughter. We see how that relationship plays out somewhat. We see her older too. She wasn't that old in the game.
Yeah.
Um, but to see, when I saw the soldier, I knew what was happening next.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I
Yes.
was I was like, all right, I know how this is gonna play out. But no, I
Mhm.
was on the edge of my seat. I was more curious of how far they want to get into the story in the first episode. That's what I was curious about. I
Mhm.
but it was a great episode, man.
But
I loved it.
they're not flying through.
No,
I feel like they're taking their time on the first two episodes and setting the premise, and then quote unquote teaching the viewer, if you
hmm
don't know about the storyline, about this world of the zombie apocalypse. Because if you
and
think
how
about
we
it,
got there too.
how we got there,
Yeah,
what led up to it, what truths have been stretched a little for this storyline. I'll get into that in a little bit.
okay.
But um it basically just draws out the premise of it, and it
Yeah,
doesn't do it in a fast way, and I'm sure later on it'll speed up. But I know the first episode was longer, and I was like, okay. I didn't feel like it was that long. And the second episode, I was like, you done already? Done
yeah.
already? So I was like, damn, like I didn't feel like we made it that far, but big strides were made for the storyline.
I think it set a lot of the foundation of why Joel's the way he is. It set that up. It
And
explains so
you
much.
need that for the
Yeah,
story. You need that for
yeah.
the story
It,
because the story revolves around them,
yes.
right? So the second episode did even better than the first episode and basically brought in 5.7 million viewers for the second episode. So that's obviously impressive, and it shows what a huge following it has. And I read somewhere that game sales are like up
Naturally.
300% or something like that. It was some crazy ass number. So like every,
What what year did the first one come out?
I don't know. Let's look it up.
I mean take a quick look because you have a whole fan base who wasn't really into games at the
That's a good
time.
point.
Now they're able to be into video games to play these games and I have a complete understanding of it. So it makes sense that they are reselling.
2013.
That's 10 years ago, bro.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. So
And
it
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. And then you have a new systems out too now. So of course the sales are gonna go back up, you know.
I
A
love
lot.
how this game is all the way back from 2013 and we still have such a huge following for it. You know,
Yeah.
I love that. It's pretty cool. It's very very impressive. So obviously this game has wowed a lot of people and been around for a lot of people and gained a lot of credibility in all these years. It has won over 200 Game of the Year awards, most notably best narrative, best accessibility features, best graphical, soundtrack, sound design, PS4 Game of the Year, Studio of the Year, which is Naughty Dog. Man, they've just basically blown out the competition. And I mean, in my opinion, you know, it became a big staple of PlayStation. You know,
Yeah.
when they make gaming units and then they put that on the they print on top of the PlayStation and that's the game that it comes with, it says a lot.
Yeah.
You
Last
know,
of Us was the reason why I stayed with PlayStation and didn't go over to and didn't go with Xbox.
you damn almost you almost traitor.
Almost. Almost.
So the breakdown is this: the first episode was 85 minutes, the second episode was 55, and the next one, episode 3, which I heard, I gotta check the calendar, is gonna air on Monday, not Sunday. I gotta double check that. The 29th. What day is that?
Oh,
Let me see. The
it's
29th.
the 29th is a Sunday.
Okay, so I heard that wrong. Okay, so it's next Sunday. So I hate that I have to wait till next Sunday for it.
But
But
you get to watch the first two again.
you know, I watch it. I don't think I need to watch it again. I'd rather do studying on it. I'd rather hear different
Gotcha.
viewpoints, and and from those videos, I'm gonna see it again anyway. I
Gotcha.
love to catch a lot of the stuff I missed. Like in the end of the first episode, a lot of the naked eye doesn't catch it, but they showed a clicker in the distance on
Hmm.
like a mountain or something like that,
Yeah.
or on a building top, and he
Yeah.
was
On
like
the top of the
screaming.
building.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So I was like, damn, man, that's some serious focusing. And man, the fans, man, they just really focus on everything at all times. The background, like I'm focused on the characters. I'm focused on anything popping out. Right, I'm listening to the soundtrack, to the music and everything.
Hmm.
I'm watching people watch the background. You see plants growing out of cups. I didn't notice that. Like they're basically they spend a lot of time and detail on the backgrounds and the environment and the cinematography, and I love that because that was one great aspect of the game.
Hmm.
As
Yeah.
much as a messed up looking city it was, or this world has become turned into, it was beautiful because at the same time, because it's almost like nature was taking over.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. It was a beautiful design. It was the environment in the
Mhm.
game was amazing. You know.
Definitely. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna jump into the plot storyline real quick. Um, if anything, um, you want to see a trailer of the
Sure.
of the first? I have a trailer, so I have a trailer of the series real quick. Let me jump into that, share that. So, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's just a trailer, but just to make you happy, I'm gonna throw you a spoiler alert, so you don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so here we go. So you better run out of here if you're scared of hearing stuff. All right. Here's a trailer. Enjoy. If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what
Yeah,
does.
man.
That was a lot. There was a lot of information in that trailer,
It
but
was.
but we're catching on because obviously we played the game, as many of you have. But to the naked eye, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's enjoyable, and you don't have to really worry about it ruining the storyline for you because you'll understand everything as it comes along.
Hmm.
But yeah, that got me excited, man. Mm.
Yeah,
So
man. That was
what
a
you
really good trailer. They did a really good job on that trailer. Kind of, you got a lot of perspective
definitely,
on the journey. You
yeah.
know.
So from there, let's talk about the storyline before we really get into anything, right? The plot storyline. I try to make it short and sweet. All right. So what is the plot of The Last of Us? It's a story about Joel and Ellie, about a closed off, suffering, hardened old survivor and a teenager who's full of humor. defiance, and life despite of the dire circumstances she was born into. It's a horror tragedy with moments of heart and hope amid the bleakness, not a straightforward story about saving the world. So that last sentence hits me. It's not a straightforward story about saving the world. The world is in dire need of something, right? Of hope, of something, right? And what ends up happening is somebody's pain and struggle ends up conflicting with the needs of the world.
Misery loves company.
I guess so, right? I guess so. But to me that's deep. That's deep right there. How
Yeah.
how almost the humanity can fall on the shoulders of somebody who's so hurt and guarded that they may want to hold back. In a world where everybody looks out for themselves, right?
Yeah. But was that person doing it for themselves too? That's a whole other thing. Was that person trying to avoid the hurt,
We can make we
that
can make that we can make that conversation. But
yeah.
let's get into the cast. This great cast.
Oh yeah.
Do you like the cast? Do you feel like they're I'm gonna go through them, but anybody that you're not crazy about or
Well, um Bella Ramsey.
all right, hold
Like
that thought. We're gonna go through all these characters and then we'll talk about it, right? All
uh,
right, all right. So I'm sorry to cut you off. All right. So one of the main characters, Pedro Pascal. You can see how he looked in the game versus on the show. He's a great actor. He's
oh,
been in a lot of
amazing.
great things.
Amazing actor.
You have Bella Ramsey, where there has been some controversy in terms of the likeness of the character, but I think she's great because she has a very decorated history of acting, even at this young age. And how can I put this? Her sarcasm comes out great in this, and that character has a lot of sarcasm and is always joking around, right? I mean, is yet to be seen, right? And
Yeah.
in case you haven't, if they both those characters stick out to you, they were also both in Game of Thrones.
The
So
Viper. He
yeah,
was the
yeah, and
Viper.
those are both big characters on Game of Thrones. So these
Yes,
guys
yes.
are very creditable, and obviously not a stranger to HBO, right?
Oh, well, nice.
So then we got next up, we got the daughter of Joel, which is Nico Parker, right? Now,
Wow, you really picked an old picture.
but like what it is, like Sarah looked really young there, so I had to get like a
Yeah.
younger picture, but does
She doesn't look like that in the show.
she
Nico
doesn't
Parker does not look like that in the
I'll
show.
show you another picture, but do you know who Nico Parker is related to? Who's she's the daughter of?
Somebody with the last name Parker.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out. You ready for the answer?
Nate Parker? I doubt
No, no.
it.
Her name is Thandy.
Is that
Thandy.
Mev? Mez from not Mez. That's her name. Maeve? That's not
Huh?
Maeve.
Her name is
From
Thandy Newton, and she was in Mission
Westworld.
Impossible.
Oh,
Westworld, exactly.
Maeve. That was her character name in
Mission
I think Maeve.
Impossible.
Yeah.
She's been working alongside
An amazing
Denzel.
actress.
Yeah,
Amazing actress.
amazing actress. When you see them side by side, you see the resemblance strongly.
Yeah.
And this is an older picture of her, of Nico Parker. So, with the storyline, obviously she dies quick, but that's a big premise of the story. And
Yeah.
they also have flashbacks that you're gonna see. So we're gonna see her throughout. Next up, we have Storm Reed, which I think who plays Riley, and I think that's a nice comparison right there, characters,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is that Storm Reed actually plays the voice on the game. So
Does she?
yeah, pretty cool, right? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So next up we have Anna Torv, and Anna Torv, here, let me show you right here. Um Anna Torv has been in a lot of really big things, most notably, and I'm gonna shout out someone who shared this in the room, Bobbert Williams. He posted that she was in Mindhunter, Fringe, and The Last of Us, and I
Okay.
love those shows. I love those shows. Very decorated actress. I'm sad um, her character didn't go longer, but
Okay.
that's the part of the storyline. You know,
She knew
we
she
have
was signing up for.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, she knew what she signed up for, right? And then we have Nick Offerman, who's obviously been in a lot of things. He plays Bill. I'm curious how this plays out. We haven't
Okay.
seen him yet, you know. And then here's the rest of the cast. So you have Gabriel Luna, Merle DeAndridge, Jeffrey Pierce, Murray Bartlett, Bettina Wesley, Natasha Mumba, and so on and so on. You could see the rest of them.
Yeah.
I'm excited about seeing these guys later on, you know,
Yeah.
and how their characters are involved, you know.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say about the only character I'm kind of concerned with so far is Bella, um, who plays Ellie, of course.
Okay.
And I'm like I really have no foundation on this concern, right? It's just kind of like it's there, you know.
All right. What
Um,
what bothers you about it?
can she capture that sarcastic vibe that we got?
She has
Um,
already.
yeah,
She has already.
yeah,
But there's a lot more story to tell.
yeah. There's a lot more story, and that's what I'm saying. This is just kind of premature.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think Pedro has done a great job at playing his role,
Hmm.
and it's going to be curious to see that his transition from from being this hard shell person towards Ellie towards almost like a father uncle figure towards her later
Hmm.
on when they get to the snow
Definitely.
part of the game.
Hmm. I'm gonna show a quick video that shows how HBO is staying true to its source material, which is the game. So I have a couple scenes that were in the first episode that are mirrored by the game's version of it, so we can see how they've pretty much duplicated it. So enjoy.
Are we sick?
No, of course not.
Are we sick?
No, of course not.
No cell phone, no radio. Yeah, we're doing great. A minute ago, newsman wouldn't shut up.
No cell phone, no radio. A minute ago, newsman wouldn't shut up.
How do you know?
Hell. That's Lewis's farm. I hope that sumbitch made it out.
God. It's Jimmy's place.
We're good.
Didn't Jimmy work in the city?
What are you doing?
Got a kid, Joel.
So do we. Keep driving. Who do you think you're doing? Keep driving.
I got a kid, Joel.
So do
But
we.
we have room.
Somebody else will come along.
Someone else will come along.
Fuck! Everybody had the same fucking idea.
Everyone and their mother had the same damn idea.
What you think?
Great, great. But for me, I think Nico sold that. She made that scene for me personally. She made that scene because her fear. We see her fear captured in a way I think that's a little bit better in the game. Because it's actually
That first episode, you see that a lot of that.
yeah, yeah. So
And
we see that fear. I mean, I think they did a great job. The movie. The series does a great job with that scene.
Mhm.
Slight
Agreed.
changes, but slight changes, but
Yeah.
nothing to
We're
cry
gonna
about.
we're gonna see that. We're gonna see
Yeah,
that. Hopefully, the fans aren't too brutal on
yeah,
on it. I mean, ultimately, it's about the storyline, and
yeah,
I think HBO is smart enough to judge when they change something. It makes sense towards filming. You
mhm,
know, the art of storytelling via film has to, it's not going to be long and drawn out most times. So they got to
no,
figure out what to cut out and what to help the story along, as long as it's not like a major change.
yeah, no. I think they did a great job, and I think we're going to continue to see that throughout the series,
Definitely.
um, because that's a really big important scene. I mean, in the game, because it kind of establishes where they
Mhm.
are and how much things have changed so quickly. So that was a really important scene, man.
Yeah, that first episode was like the shit hitting the fan. People
Yeah.
didn't know what was happening. It felt like a lot of other movies we've seen. I Am Legend when everything was getting shut down. Same thing. Government versus civilian.
Yep.
People just trying to make sense of things. Like there's a point where the first zombie we see comes after the daughter,
Mhm.
and Joel ends up having to shoot him, and she looks at him like, you just shot someone, and he's like, don't worry, it's not a real person. Like he was basically trying to calm her, to say like, like it's not like what you think it is. You don't understand what's happening.
Just want to. I think I could be wrong. I think he didn't. I don't think he shot him. I think he hit him with a wrench.
Okay. No, but then the uncle had a gun, no?
Yeah, the uncle had a gun, but I
Okay.
think I think Joe hit him with a wrench. Remember because Nico, the character, she looked scared when he did that.
Yeah.
And the comparison of her versus Ellie when they both saw him kill somebody, and they
Yeah.
kind of had like
So
this
that
different.
shows the
Yeah,
changeover from what's normal and what becomes the
yeah,
new norm,
yeah. Because that's what
of
Ellie was
defending
raised in.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
she was
Uh,
raised in that environment, so she was a product of environment.
mhm.
But
Yep.
yeah, we see that, and it's great that they caught that in one episode too.
Yes.
We
I
see
mean,
that
that's
at
the
the
art of
beginning,
storytelling.
and then we see
Yeah.
at the end. That was
Yeah.
pretty great, man.
Yeah. I really like her in that role. I look forward to seeing her more, I guess, in flashbacks,
Yeah,
'cause that's a big part of what makes up Joel and
yeah,
and his decision making, you
yeah.
know.
That causes
So
his conflict. It causes his inner conflict.
I'm gonna talk about the storyline of the virus, just to kind of, for those that don't really know, school you about really what's the cause of all this stuff. And let me just read this. Scientist played by John Hannah talks about the threat of cordyceps, and how climate change can allow the fungus to spread from the more tropical regions of the world to human population centers. He mentions how cordyceps works, and this is something that scientists have studied in the wild. The fungi infects its host and then fills its host with hallucinations that cause them to act a certain way. Most importantly, the scientist adds that there are no cures, nor is it possible to make one. That's why Ellie becomes so important to the storyline. Humanity will lose if this occurs. And he ends his interview saying that the scientist in the first episode, when he tells you about it.
Yeah. You know what I like so far,
Mm.
and I think that we're going to see a dual timeline happening here.
Mm.
And the first two episodes, at the beginning of the birth of the first two episodes, we see pre-apocalypse, zombie apocalypse. I
Mm.
think as the series continues to progress, we're going to see that how we got to this point. Like the second episode, we see it again. They're in a different country, different part of the world.
Oh yeah,
How it
definitely.
was
Mm.
pre apocalypse, and
Because it
everyone is finding out. Yeah.
focuses
So
in the States, in
yeah,
Texas. It starts off in Texas,
yes,
right? The viewpoint, Ellie, Joel being from there,
yeah,
and then they have to travel. But
yes,
basically, this is a worldwide. They're basically telling the story and saying this is not a statewide or
yeah,
countrywide. It's worldwide. What's happening?
yes. That's
So they do a good job in telling that.
And I think we're going to see that dual time. I think in the third episode, we're going to see it from somewhere else, from another perspective, or maybe when we start seeing outbreaks, we probably pick it up from there in that story of this is the first outbreaks that we had and how they dealt with it.
Mhm.
Not to get too much ahead, but that opening scene on the second episode was great, man.
It was
Uh,
simple but effective, very effective.
this poor woman was having lunch. She went from having lunch, enjoying the meal, to being
Uh-huh.
scared in the car, to being, kind of like, okay, I'm curious about what's going on here, to petrified. And then she became a killer at the end of it. At the end
I
of the scene,
mean,
she's like, let's drop a
for,
bomb on everybody.
for the greater good, as a
For the
scientist,
greater
you
good.
realize you couldn't put a stop to things,
And
So let's talk about the science of basically cordyceps. Cordyceps, if you don't know, it's actually a real thing. However, the storyline was embellished in terms of it infecting humans, but it's a real thing in terms of bugs. So what it does is, it basically takes over them, and then it uses the ant or the body to grow inside, and then grows out of their head, so it can spread. And then there's different levels of it. And if there's any way to look at it, it's just different levels of fungi growing and becoming stronger, and it's powerful enough to communicate. Right? We'll get to that. That's a lot deeper for that. But I like how it's taken from. There's some truth taking out of it, and that I think that's one thing that kind of also separates it from that other zombie show, Walking Dead. That this is something that has derived from like fungus from plants. And I think that's why a lot of all the scenes we see in the background show some type of foliage of something to show that how it's kind of like everywhere. It's growing everywhere.
And the first episode they made that point too, how the world is heating up. He said if the world heats up, kind of referencing global warming. If the world heats up, this fungus can't survive in humans. So again, really good. And the fact that they also did the time jump. The game doesn't start at the same time. The series doesn't start at the same time as the game starts. So they really made it current.
Definitely. All right, so I made a couple questions to kind of guide people, and so we can talk about a couple things. The first question: what drives Joel Miller? What drives him? What? Want to answer that? What do you think?
For me, what I believe is that they established that in episode 1, his love for his daughter and to watch her die. It was his as a father. It was his job to protect, and I think he has some kind of, maybe not guilt, but he has a lot more hurt than guilt. I think the loss of his daughter is going to drive him moving
He has
forward.
guilt. He has guilt. With the way things at the end, and he realized that he was trying to comfort her. I got you, baby girl. I got you. Stay with me. She got hurt. He carried her. He's her protector, and he's taking that job seriously. He's a father. And then when he got confronted with the soldier, and then the soldier, he was like, I'm not affected. Like, we're please. Yeah. We're just trying to get to someplace safe. And then he gets orders to take him out. I feel like he takes guilt to that. And it shows when he goes on the mission later on, all these years later, with Ellie, and he's confronted with a soldier again. He no longer waits. He attacks him. And he just he releases all that anger and frustration and guilt and all those feelings on a whip ass, punching him in his face till the guy's just a bloody pulp, and his hand was injured and everything. And it shows that he does have regret. It shows that he carries that pain,
and he's angry.
Angry. He lives in this new world 30 years later, because that's when it zooms to, and the world has changed. He's found a way to kind of like. He found his place in terms of like, obtaining stuff and selling stuff, and
and he also he has a numbness to him as well.
He does.
He's very numb. When they was disposing the expired bodies, and
I mean, and then,
I cannot do it, and he was like, all right, man, I'll do it. He had no problem doing it.
And then that's basically what he's turned to in over 30 years. It shows, it zooms in that far, but he's become a shell of what he used to be,
And even with him thinking like, right, we should shoot her. We were talking about shooting Ellie, before, when they was having that conversation. So we should shoot her
definitely,
and find another way. He's become a different person. His character's evolving, and I think we're going to continue to see that. And he may end up getting softer.
That's the premise of the whole story. This hardened, toughened, angry, resentful man who doesn't believe in anything anymore because the only thing he cared about was taken away from him, somehow gets another opportunity to kind of like add redemption, I guess.
Yeah, well, some would say redemption, or some would say screw the world over. I mean, it depends what you're looking at. Depends how you look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
it.
Okay, so next question. Who are the Fireflies?
I I I I know. Well, I know the answer to this question, but all right, I'm gonna let you answer this question.
All right, you give me
But
yours.
I
You
have
give
a
me yours
follow-up
after.
question to this.
Okay. So, who are the Fireflies? They are an anti-government group that is focused on trying to get things back to the way they were in terms of freedoms and people and everything. They're fighting for the way things were, and the military has gotten to a controlling manner of this. People are still people. People are still alive, even though you're sharing this planet with all these monsters, but people still have to be governed, and so they keep attacking the government and all the military forces to let them know, like, we're not giving up. So all their intentions aren't the purest, but foundationally, that's where they started.
So
What do you
my
want to know?
question, my
Okay.
question to you was, I think that was a great explanation of who they are. Um, are they? Well, right now in the show, we don't know what they are. As far as we can't put them in a category as good or bad. But you play the game. What do you think?
I think the bad
Would
guys.
you put them in a category as good or bad?
In a world of disarray, everyone's out for themselves, and that's
Hmm.
what ends up proving to be true throughout the game. That although their intentions may be pure initially, they they choose to look after their own after their own wants and needs themselves in this new world. It's almost like you want to retain what you can retain to give you the power to hold, whatever power you have in this new world, because that's what it's about.
So what's the difference between them and Joe?
You're getting deep into this story.
I'm sorry. All right, forget it. I'm sorry. All right.
I mean, there's still a lot to be seen. You're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
from a
yeah.
standpoint of the game.
Mhm.
But you talk about the brother.
I'm talking about in just
Oh,
general.
Joel, you said Joel. I thought you
Joe,
said
yeah.
Joel. You asked what's the difference between him and Joel?
No,
Them and Joel.
the Fireflies and Joe.
The difference is he doesn't want to belong to a larger group or entity. He wants to be left alone. He wants to kind of just exist with his emotions and his anger and his feelings, and he wants to just kind of just live off the grid. He doesn't really have that many commitments to people. He had that tie with what was her name, Lori, the one who died in the second episode.
Oh, Tess?
Tess, excuse me, Tess. um so he had a connection with her, but outside of that, like, who is he really connecting with? He's an angry. So the difference is he doesn't need affiliations to feel important in this new world. He just wants to get what he wants and keep it moving.
Okay, fair
No,
enough.
no, no,
No,
no.
fair enough. You're
Okay.
talking Joe pre. You talking Joe pre-adventure though. I'm talking Joe
You're
adventure
talking
Joe.
down the line. We have to
Yeah, I'm sorry.
follow
Yeah, yeah.
a line, and we're not there yet. We're just only
All
at
right, cool.
episode 2.
We'll stick to where we at. Gotcha.
So, all right, next question. What are the levels of infection? So, I have some visuals for this.
Yeah, they did a really good job explaining this in the show actually.
Definitely. So, here we go. So you have a runner, a stalker, clicker, bloater. Now there's more. I have another image to show you, but ultimately this is the simplest way to put it, right? But as you can see, the infection takes over and basically grows out of their heads, and then it makes them basically unrecognizable. And it turns they're not human, obviously, but humans see with their eyes. Eventually they're not able to see. and they use their hearing, and adds a whole nother dimension. But as it progresses, they become a lot harder to kill. They
Oh
require
my God.
a whole lot more shots,
Yeah.
And here's an even better picture right here. You got the runners, you have the stalkers, the bloaters, and eventually the shamblers, right? The clickers, the bloaters, and the shamblers. And I know I hated the bloaters.
I hated the clickers.
Hated them.
Oh my God, the clickers for me
Oh, the
were.
clickers too. But like
Oh
with
my
the
God.
clickers, you had to be a ninja. You had to channel your inner Metal Gear Solid Snake. And yeah, you shank them
Yeah,
with
melee.
the
Yeah,
knife, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure all of us have sat in the dark trying to be a ninja, throwing bottles so he could go over there, so we could, you know. So
But it's like the clicker. Once you made noise, it was like, all right, man, this is it. This is pretty much it for
sometimes
you.
and then you have to be mindful of the vines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about those, but those are the stages of infection. Okay. I actually wanted to let me get to my images right here.
I,
What's up?
I don't know if you have it. They have another one with the time too, which was pretty cool. They had the one with the time, and it shows you how many hours where you would be. I think they was in the first one. It was a sign on the and that scene with when they killed that little girl. Um, when the soldier or the officer, I don't know what she was, and the little girl came in. They asked if she was bit or anything like that. They had a sign behind her
Yes.
explaining how long, and then
Yeah.
if you shot, and then if there was a bit in certain areas.
Oh,
You
and
know,
in the second episode, Ellie is being like asking a bunch of questions and
gotcha.
to Joel, and
Oh,
Joel, she goes, "How long does it take him to turn?" And he says 48 hours. I think he says 24 to 48 hours. I forgot what it was. And then they said, she said, how long do they last? He said like a month or two, but certain ones have been living around. They get stronger, and they're around for like over 20 years or something like that. So, there's a lot more that shows that he's experienced a lot at this point,
yeah.
and he's seen the different levels of these monsters, but yeah, so like he I like the way they tell the story and how they're just giving us these bits and pieces of important information that add to the storyline in terms of the premise of these monsters and how you got to be, it's not like a regular zombie apocalypse where you're just running, and then there's ways in certain areas depending on what type where you can sneak past them. The clickers use their hearing, which are creepy as hell. But at this point, I would like to let me pull it up right here. Let me find you. Where you at? All right, here we go. So I inside that chat room on Facebook that I joined, the Last of Us obsession, I tapped the group and I asked them, "Hey, I'm doing a podcast. Do you guys want to add any questions to the podcast?" And they brought some very valid questions. So I'm gonna give a shout out while I'm sharing the questions. But one of the first questions, which was a very funny question, was what's next in store for the piano frog? So so
I saw that too.
yeah, so you see when they're walking in that building, and the whole first level is completely submerged with it's like a swamp, and you see
Mhm.
foliage everywhere, and there's a piano in there, and
The
um
ducks.
yeah, the ducks, and like, listen, animals still live there, but you see literally a frog on a submerged piano, and like when he goes to jump, you see him push the keys. So
Mhm.
to answer your question, David, um his question was, what's next in store for the piano frog? To me, it's simple. He's gonna turn to Kermit the Frog and eventually the WB Frog, and then he's just basically he's gonna create a soundtrack. Okay, I don't know if he can sell it, but
Wow.
but yeah, I mean that was a funny little thing that they threw in for the episode to show you that I guess it's still nature, and there's still life forms that are out there. Not
Mhm.
everything has
That's the
turned.
scene. Yeah.
Not as everything turned. Little side note, originally in the story, they were thinking for the game, they were actually considering making zombie hybrids, animal hybrids. So they were going to do a tiger, they were going to do an elephant, they were going to do a gorilla. And I had these images that they shared, but they decided for the game and for the story that it would be a lot more
You know
complicated to
how
do
hard
it.
that would have been.
I know, but like the images were cool looking. You know, I'll share them with you offline. I just thought it was an interesting cutting floor type of thing. So David Miller asked another question on a serious note. Genuine question now. Is the voice of the clickers done by the same actors as in the game? And obviously he knows the answer to that. The clickers in HBO's The Last of Us are voiced by the same actors as in the game, which I like that a lot. I like how they're staying true to its form. Their names are Misty Lee and Philip Kovacs. They returned for the female and male clickers in the HBO Last of Us. Explain this to me. What voice? Like they just click? No, they don't speak.
Somebody got to make that noise.
I can't do that. They were like, like it's just a bunch of clicking. Like it sounds like something I've heard before. But I think that's cool that they did that. Thank you for your question, David. Next up we have Victor Hall, and Victor, shout out to him. What do you think about the death of Tess, and why do people seem to prefer the video game death? So we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. Let me give you some answers right here. So first, in the game, Tess gets bitten by the infected and reveals her wound to Joel. Like in the show, she then uses it to prove that Ellie is fine and urges Joel to continue on with the teenager. However, instead of being attacked by the infected and blowing herself up, Tess dies at the hands of Fedra in the game, a government group. The Federal Disaster Response Agency, that's what it stands for, managed to catch up with Joel and Tess as they try to get a hold of Ellie. Tess then stays behind and acts as a distraction while Joel and Ellie move on. Tess attempts to kill as many as possible before dying off screen. The gameplay shows Joel overlooking the lobby as it's confirmed Tess has been killed. So that's the version of the game that a lot of people were expecting and were a little disappointed with. I wasn't. This is what happened. Why was Tess's death changed for the show? Speaking about the reasoning behind changing Tess's death on the HBO series, they revealed it's because they thought it wouldn't have made sense for Fedra to be at the Capitol building. Why would Fedra even be here? Why? What are they doing? There is nothing there for them to police, really. It didn't make much sense for them for Fedra to be all the way out there in the boonies. So we wanted a chance to show a different result of being infected, which was not one of mere violence or horror, but rather a sick kind of community. Now at the end, we had the opportunity to show how connected they were. He added, explaining the reason behind that horrifying kiss of death, which I'll talk about, and the fact that the infected are all part of a hive mind, which is an important point. So,
flexing his creative muscles. I dig it.
I dig it. I get it. I like the logic with it. I'm one of those people who I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That's a sound concept. That's a sound idea of why would Fedra be there. We're gonna see stuff later. But what's up?
No, I'm just saying that they established who Fedra was in the first episode as well. Like what kind of agency this is. So we've seen the violence in the first episode. So
definitely,
it doesn't need to be reiterated. And I think this was a beautiful opportunity to change up a little bit.
So, and I'll just throw this out there again. Hold on, where you at? So I'm going to talk about stuff we've been talking about stuff that's sensitive this whole time, but I'll throw this out there again. Run if you haven't ran already and you don't want to hear some sensitive information before seeing the episode. But they explain what the vines do and how you have to avoid them, because if you step on them, they will communicate with nearby zombies some type of connection that they have, and let them know, and they will all come your way. So even though you're being like a ninja and you're sneaking around, if you step on any of those vines, unless the vines have died, and they became dried up, they can communicate. So they go inside of the museum, and they find the group that they were supposed to deliver Ellie to, which was the Fireflies, are all dead. And they were like, what happened? What happened here? They try to figure it out. They end up coming across a clicker. They killed him, and before he killed them, it communicated with the rest of the hive. And then Joe looks out the door and says they're going to be here within a minute. In that time, Tess admits that she got bit and that she's not going to be able to make it for the rest of the journey. And it becomes like a very heartfelt, very quick sequence of, you better go. You better go. We don't have time for this. And he's like, no, I don't want to go. And Ellie's like, you ain't leaving her. Like, we're all together. And she was like, no, you have to go, and I'm gonna hold them off. Which is, she did the noble thing in the game as well against Fedra. Now, what I would have liked a little bit more, I didn't really appreciate. She steps to the side. She throws a bunch of gasoline on the floor. She finds a bunch of grenades. She throws them on the floor. She plans on blowing them up. She's trying to light her lighter. For the longest, the zombies are just running in, and she's like, click, 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 for the longest. And I'm like, damn, like, are you trying to like keep them from getting them, or are you letting them chase her? I was like, there's so many of them getting inside the building, like they're gonna get to them. So eventually a clicker walks up to her, and it was creepy as hell, where it just kind of like, I know they can't see, but it looked like it looked at her. It opened up its mouth, and you see the tentacles inside, and they kind of have like a zombie kiss. But it basically shows that these tentacles, kind of like in the first sequence of the second episode, where the scientist takes something out of the corpse, and it's still alive and it's still trying to get her. Same premise. So she gets the light of the light, she drops in the floor, and just the same way the game showed him looking back at, at the where she died at. They look back at the building, and there was a big explosion, and it ends there. So people were upset. It didn't bother me that much, to me, but there's gonna be changes throughout this show. That's what it comes down to. So
And I don't think that's a major change. Only thing I would say is that it could have been an opportunity to understand the dislike towards Phaedra, but it didn't. It went a different direction, which was cool.
Well, he was going through a lot of emotions. He's a tough individual. You can see how it was pulling at his heartstrings, but he was still keeping a strong face. And which brings us into our next question. Victor Hall, thank you for that question. Good question. Genevieve, she asked, what do you think about the museum scene, which we were just talking about? How do you feel about the way the fungus communicates with the infected? Did you like the way that Tess pretty much says I love you to Joel, when he says I have never asked you for anything to feel the way that I felt? So good question. Museum scene was cool. It was sad. It was a quick moment, but you even though what's gonna happen, I was sad that she died. It was noble how she realized that she was bit, and she was like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. I'm gonna take out as many as I can. But it all leans to the storyline. It's all building towards a greater good of them progressing. Now they have to figure something. He has to figure out something out on his own now. He doesn't have Tess to bounce ideas off of. They have to figure out where to go next, because all those Firefly soldiers were murdered. And now they have to figure out where to take Ellie, who has proven to be
Immune to the
immune to it, and her blood would be the solution for it. So thank you for the question, Genevieve. Thank you everybody in the room for the questions. Very cool stuff. I appreciate you. Yeah, those are basically all the questions we have. So overall, I enjoyed it so far. I'm so excited for. Oh, I just remembered. I'm so excited for what's coming down the line. I think. Let's see if I have it. Yeah. I'm gonna share a quick scene with the clickers, and ultimately, a big part of this was in the trailer, but I know from my standpoint, I got excited when I saw this. So I'm gonna share this quick scene with you. Hopefully, you like it too.
Yeah. Could they have done clickers any better? I don't think so. I'm glad they didn't use it
Someone
total
asked that question.
CGI.
Mhm.
I'm so glad. I'm glad they actually used people to be the clickers.
One thing
Yo,
that
hearing that noise, man,
it brings back the memories, right?
brings back memories.
The
Me being
frustration.
frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. Someone asked that question. What do we think about the clickers? I really like them. I mean, you see their twitches and everything, and their body is contorted and everything. I love that. I know in the first episode, what I really liked is when people were changing over to being a zombie, and they were like biting people. I loved how they were very like twitchy, right? And fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, that's scary." I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really good. That's really good. As far as adapting from the game, I don't know if it's gonna get any much better than that. That was like spot on.
we got a lot more to see, man. A
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
more.
yeah. That was spot on,
I'm
man.
curious how it translates all those gaming moments against the bloaters and whatever, how
Yeah.
that's gonna translate. But just in that scene, which it doesn't show it all right there. I didn't want to show it all, where he's fighting the clicker and he's like shooting and he's like wasting all this ammo, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's bringing me back to the frustration when I play the game. I'm like, damn it,
Like, come on, dude.
die!
You
Come
cannot
on,
shoot this. Like,
yeah, like So yeah, man. So that's basically it. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
so far, what you got? Rating from 1 to 10.
Well, I give it a 9 because I got to leave space for it to get better. What do you give it?
I'm going to go with a for where they are right now for episodes from 1 to 2, and me knowing the game, I got to give it. It's perfect so far. I don't see anything. I'm just talking from the beginning to right now. I think they've nailed it on all levels so far.
I have a huge amount of respect for HBO and their attention to detail. Minus on Game of Thrones when they left.
I was just about to say, well,
but that's not HBO's fault, right?
Yeah.
But it was the director. It was a lot of people, but nonetheless, they put a lot of effort and energy, just like on this show, with makeup, with scenery, just like in the game. Just like in the game, I remember thinking like, wow, this environment, it's like ugly and beautiful at the same time. It's terrifying and it's so many feelings in one, and they definitely capture it when you see the where the city was bombed and you see the building standing sideways. It's identical to the game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It excites me seeing that stuff. The attention to detail. I just want to get up and clap. I'm curious later on what they'll win with awards and makeup and all that stuff. They really, really do their homework. So yeah, man. I mean, I give it top ratings, you know. But yeah, so basically that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank everyone in the chat room for adding good material and being able to bounce ideas off each other. I love it. I love the stimulation. I love all the fans that are watching our shows and commenting and subscribing. Man, I appreciate you. I love you guys. I love movies. I love these shows. And we got a lot more to enjoy. So thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed myself, man. I love talking movies with you.
Oh, I love it. We miss Rick, but he's with us. Rick is right here. Literally, I'm right here. I got a picture of him right here. He's always with us, and we're gonna keep on. This question I'll ask the fans, the people out there, the viewers. What we do next is up to you. If you like this breakdown, if you like this episode, if you like how I'm tapping the fans out there for questions and including you guys, and you want to see more, let me know. Send me a message, write it on YouTube. Media Chop Up is you just type that in on YouTube. You can get to my channel. And if you do, then we'll do more episodes. If not, I'll wait to the end and then I'll just summarize the whole thing. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. So you guys let me know if you want to see more episodes being broken down throughout the season. We have 8 of them. Or would you just rather wait for the whole thing to finish and then I'll just summarize it up and we'll close this out? Let me know. Thank you once again. Always remember to do what you love and love what you do. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Until the next one. See ya.
Peace.